Hello everyone, how's it going? I am WoWcrendor and welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Crendor. I think we're on episode 26 or 7, or somewhere around there, I've lost count. But today, I am going to be fishing with the one and only Grant Kirkhope. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing as good as I can do.
In Chicago in the rain and snow, or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's raining, which I mean, I'll take 60-something degrees in rain over 20 in snow any day.
Hey, no, yeah, I get you. True enough.
But, I mean, you got all that rain in LA, so.
Oh, yeah, dreadful. It chucked it down, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Paddington.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, he says that the Brits have got, like, 120 terms for, like, rain.
Yeah.
It's true. We've got so many different phrases for, like, saying it's coming down in buckets or whatever. Like, I love that movie for that, just for that reason alone. It's just brilliant, yeah.
The new Paddington, right? Or is it the old one? Yeah.
No, the movie came out like a couple of years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I watched that, actually. I was going to London on a flight, and they had it for free, so I watched it. It was actually a really good movie.
Oh, I loved it. I think as a Brit, you know, you can't help but love it because it's so typically British.
Yeah.
But I just love the kind of reference to the rain. It was perfect because like every Brit gets that thing that we've all got like a phrases to say it's raining, you know.
Yeah. So for people that don't know who you are, why don't you just tell them who you are, what you do? It's like a little bio about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a composer. I started at Rare back in the Dark Ages in 1995. Ooh. So I did like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, what else? Donkey Kong 64, Viva Pinata, Grab by the Ghoulies, Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. Then I left there. I moved to America, to Baltimore in 2008, and then I did Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning there. And then I moved to LA in 2012, and since then I've done like, let's think, Mickey Mouse and Castle of Illusion, a couple of Civilization, Beyond Earth games. I'm doing Yooka Laylee right now, Drop Zone, Ghostbusters last year. Super secret thing that I can't talk about, and I did a movie last year too. I did with Pierce Brosnan and William Hurt, and it's called The King's Daughter. And that's about up to date, I think, just about.
They got you busy now.
I know, yeah. There's no retiring for me in old age. It's like just keep going, you know, till you drop.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of people just knew like you from the whole like writing the video game music and all that stuff, and then when you went on Game Grumps, I think you kind of blew up in the whole like YouTube streamer scene and all that.
Yeah, that was strange. Like, you know, I didn't really expect that at all. Mm-hmm. As you can tell from the stories that I told on the Game Grumps thing.
Yeah.
I just kind of thought it'd be like a little kind of, you know, no one ever listened to it at all. I think I'd underestimated how massive like John and Aaron were, you know, mm-hmm. And because John had like he'd been really sort of complimentary over the years about Banjo Kazooie and stuff, and I'd seen some of his videos, and he made me to say, by the way, you know, I just want to say that, you know, I love your stuff, and I was like, oh, I'm really really flattered. And then I moved to LA, and I said, you know, I had a funny feeling they were in LA. I said to John, you know, by the way, I'd love to just come along and, you know, buy you and a drink or something, like just to say thanks for all the kind words over the years, kind of thing, you know. He said to me, well, why don't you come on the show? And I was like, I'm not very funny, you know. I don't know whether I'll be any good. You're probably really boring. He goes, well, you know, come and give it a go and see what you think.
Yeah.
So of course I just went completely mad for that hour and just got really excited and swore a lot. And I think that was my time when I learned that the internet is forever. Like, you know, that thing that maybe you don't really learn at all. Yeah. And then it's like, it only really dawned on me when I moved over here. My son's like 14, so he's got like friends who do watch the Game Grunt stuff and what have you know.
Yeah.
And so they'd start, you know, the parents would go, God, there's Mr. Kirkhope's picture there, you know, thinking, you know, let's listen to what you're saying, because I'm swearing my head off in the first like 10 seconds. I'm like, oh my, yeah. Turn it off, you know. So I kind of learned that. And my kids started to find it, and so I learned that that's my kind of lesson. Internet's forever. Try not to swear too much if you possibly can. Just when you get a bit older, they start to go, "Oh God, Dad, why did you do that?" You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all bizarre. Like 2 million views and all that. It's got a bit, and the whole story about my knackers and stuff and all that's got a bit out of hand. So I guess obviously it's great fun to do, and I love John and Aaron, they're great guys. So it was good. I was so flattered that they asked me, but I think I learned a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, they are really cool. I've only met John once. I've met Aaron a few times, and he's really awesome. Oh, he's like a really down-to-earth, just cool guy.
All the people involved with the Grumps are really nice people. Like I know, like quite a few of them, and they're really.
Yeah, Ross is a note. Ross actually came on my show.
Yeah, no, Ross is a really good guy.
Yeah, he's Australian.
Yeah, no, tell what I like about the guys, the grumps most of all is, I love it when people just, a bit like yourself, go, I'm just going to do it my way. I'm going to make my stuff, and it's going to be the way I want it. And if people don't like it, hard luck. And, and just build it up that way. Like, it reminds me of when I was at Rare, the two brothers that ran it. That's what they were like. They started a video games company, and the parents said, you're mad, you're never going to get anywhere, you're going to end up penniless. And they just kept going and going and going, and had real hard times at the start and worked ridiculously hard, but in the end they got there, And I love that kind of story where people just want to, like the Game Grumps is a real brand, right? I mean, it's just a real proper brand now. I think that kind of stuff's fantastic. I think it's great to see people make something out of nothing, and I don't know, I think it's great.
Yeah, that's what's so great about the internet is it allows for a lot of that too.
No,
Which, I mean,
yeah, good idea. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the theme behind like Yooka Laylee even. Is like everybody wanted that thing, and all you guys are like, yo, let's get together and do the thing, and now it's like happening. Yeah,
that was like a real sort of set of fortunate disasters, I call it. It was like it was just the way that everybody sort of became available at the same time. Because there was no way over the years it could have happened really. Because like I left Rare in 2008, but some people were still there, but it kind of happened that some guys got laid off and some guys left. It was the first time the kind of core Banjo Kazooie team were ever available to do it, and it was just a weird thing. It's like it just came together so right. And I've been kind of talking about a game like that for years, but everyone thought I was mad and it was never going to happen. And everyone hates platformers and everyone, that kind of thing. I kept saying I'm sure there's a market for it because I kept getting, people on Twitter would keep saying to me, when are you going to do another game like that? I realized there was a bit of a market there, but I think the main factor I think is that Gavin Price, who was one of the guys at Rare when I was there, him and his wife started a cake shop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they made cakes and had a proper little shop that they sold in Burton-on-Trent in England. And so Gav was used to that kind of running a business, getting business loans thing, where the rest of us were all completely useless and would never have any idea.
Yeah.
So he was like, right, he left Rare, so I'm going to put it all together, and I'm going to, we employ you all, and we were like, oh yeah, we believe you. And like, but he went and did it, and like, he set it up, got it all going, and it was like, wow, we've got a real company going, So it was, I think Gav's cakes have been a revelation.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, but I don't think it's the truth. I think he'd been through that before. Like none of us had done that before, like setting it all up. So he knew how to do the wages thing and just all that stuff that you just don't think about. And like, I forget, I think it was called Delicious Desserts or Delicious, I can't remember the name of the him and his wife is a great cook and what have you. I think they sold it now, but I think they had it for years. And I remember at Rare, we all went, you're mad, what are you getting a cake shop for? But it did great. So, cakes help platonic.
So, speaking of which, like, how did you actually get your first job at Rare?
That was a really absolute fluke again. I think my life's like an entire fluke. Like I'd been sort of through school and stuff, and I played trumpet. Like I was taught classically to play trumpet, and I also played like heavy metal guitar. I was self-taught that. And I went to do a music degree in classical trumpet playing from like 18 to 22. And when I finished college, I thought I don't want to do it anymore. So I just went back to playing metal bands. So I spent probably 11 years. Like after that, playing in various bands. Some did all right, some did terribly. And I was playing in covers bands in pubs and all sorts of that stuff, to try and make a bit of money. At the same time, signing on unemployment insurance most of the time.
Yeah.
For at least 11 years. But I had a mate called Robin Beanland who was he was a keyboard player in one of the bands that I played for. And he one day announced he got a job, and I was like, what? Like no one I knew got a job. We'd sold bands and like claimed unemployment benefit. That's the way we did for years. It's like, what, you got a job? I said, yeah. I got a job at a video games company called Rare. I'd never heard of them. I said, what do you mean? So yeah, writing music. I was like, geez, there's a job for that, So off he went. So I think about another year and a half went by, and I kind of was getting to the end of my local band era. I was like 33, still living at home with my mother. And he said, look, you've been on unemployment benefit for an awful long time. You try and get a job. And I was like, well, I don't know, what can I do? Because I never once thought about being a composer. I mean, not ever.
Yeah.
I ever wanted to be in a metal band. Like Judas Priest was my dream. I wanted to be in Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or Pantera or something like that. So to suggest get a job was like alien concept at the start. And plus I thought, what talents have I got? I never thought about that. I said, well, why don't you try and write music? I was like, oh God, I can't do that, I'd written songs for the metal band that I was in now and then, but nothing spectacular. So he said, look, here, you recommended some gear for me to buy, and I had about £1,000 left of the money that I'd kind of got from my local band days. So I bought like an Atari ST with a meg of RAM and, super high RAM, and a copy of Cubase and a synth, and I just started writing tunes that I thought would be video game centric. I did play a lot of video games at the time. It was like Super NES sort of time then.
Yeah.
So I sent like 5 cassette tapes, and I mean like proper old bona fide cassette tapes, to Rare over the course of about a year. And I never heard anything back at all. And then out of the blue, I got a letter saying, please come for an interview, and I couldn't believe it. So I traipsed off down the M1 to Rare, and I was interviewed by Dave Wise and the general manager on a Friday, and I got a letter on the Monday saying that I'd got the job. Couldn't believe it. So I was like, geez, I've got a job. It's like such an alien thing. So I kind of moved down to Twycross where they were based, and it started there. So in 95 in October. So it was a complete fluke. I never once thought about being a composer ever. So, just bizarre.
So, was that your first job, or did you have a job before that?
No, I never had a job. That was it.
Oh, wow.
Bands and came on unemployment benefit for that entire 11 years when I left college. So I never once had an actual job. No, it was a bit strange, really, I suppose, to be such an oldie and then get my first job at 30.
But you always loved music then, right? Because you said you you're into metal and then the trumpet. So
Yeah, I was classically trained in trumpet. I played in loads of metal bands, and I played in a kind of a soul funk band on trumpet too, and that was like a proper working band. Like maybe they'd probably play 3-4 nights a week, every week for the entire year. So it was proper working, go and do gigs. They were called Zoot and the Roots. There's some videos on YouTube here and there if you want to check it out. I've got a very strange hairstyle. You might find them. It was the 80s, I suppose.
Yeah.
It was, as I say, it was the weirdest thing. Like I never once thought about it until Robin sort of said, well, why don't you try what I'm doing? I was like, well, I don't know, I'll have a go. And it literally was that. I'll have a go and see what happens.
I think it's interesting too, because he said you're so into metal music and stuff, right? Like that was your favorite genre.
Yeah.
And then you go on to write these the more famous kind of video game uppity do 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 those types of songs compared to metal.
It's really weird how it kind of turned out. I think having played in done the whole school music thing from 6 till 18 or 22. I've played in tons of different kind of little ensembles, so you get to hear lots of different kinds of music, don't you? I played school jazz band a bit and all that stuff, and then took it more seriously and played in the county orchestra, and then ended up at music college properly, did a proper degree in trumpet, with all that stuff. So you get to hear an awful lot of stuff. But it's not really video game centric.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, as I say, there was a harmony exam I had to pass. You had to pass it. I was there for 4 years. You had to pass it within the 4 years, and I failed it 3 years out of 4 because I was so bad at harmony. And I managed to scrape through the last year. So I mean, how on earth I do it, I really don't know. It's a mystery.
So, what was the first game you actually worked on then after you got hired?
So when I first got there, they'd just done that Donkey Kong Country, the first one, on the Super NES, which was a gigantic success. And I think they were just finishing off the second one, Diddy Kong's Quest, or maybe it was actually out, I'm not sure. But then I had to convert Dave Wise's music from the Super NES to run on the original Game Boy.
Yeah.
So that's my first job. So that was and the Game Boy was a bit weird. It had 3 note channels and 1 noise channel. And the noise channel could do sound effects of sorts and sort of drums of sorts. And the other 3 channels you could do a note on each. So I could do a melody note, a harmony implying sort of note, and a bass note, and that was it. So I had to sort of work out how to get Dave's great tunes from the SNES to sound roughly similar on the Game Boy. So that was my first job. And Dave was really good at all that stuff, and I was terrible at it. And I remember that first day, he kind of walked in with the computer. This is how you do it. So he showed me all the key commands and left. And I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. I'll never be able to do this. I said to Robin, I'll have to quit, Robin. I said, it's just beyond me. I'm just not clever enough to do this. And he was like, look, just get Dave back tomorrow and, tell him to take you through it again and do it step by step. So I got him back the next day. I said, look, Dave, I'm a bit thick. Can you just sort of tell me all? So I wrote it down. Step 1, press Alt-4. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do that. So I did it really slowly. So I managed to do it. I quite enjoyed it in the end, but at the start I was pretty scared. I thought, oh God, I'm just completely useless at this. Because it was nothing like I was used to. I was used to MIDI files and synths and stuff, and it was nothing like that. It was all done in hex. So it was 4 numbers on a black and white screen.
Yeah.
and that was a note and the note length and all little kind of programmy things that was completely alien to me. So yeah, it was bizarre, but as I say, I quite enjoyed it in the end, but it was super scary at the start.
How long did it take you to actually do it?
So I got there in October '95, and I probably finished it by Christmas, I think. I'd have said round about then. But like just after I started it, Graham Norgate, who was doing Blastcore and GoldenEye, said, "Look, I'm getting really busy on Blastcore. Do you want to take over GoldenEye?" And I was like, "Shit, you're kidding? I'd love to do that, you know." Mm-hmm. So it was agreed that I was allowed to do Game Boy in the morning and GoldenEye in the afternoons. That was my work schedule. So,
oh wow.
Yeah, I forgot to do that. Yeah.
So like GoldenEye then was that your first big like people heard that and they're like, oh my god, that's good music?
Well, that was a bit weird too because nobody really thought it was going to be very successful because like the licensed games did really badly, or they usually do, don't they? They don't do great, do they? When you got a licensed game, it's always a bit tacky.
Yeah.
And so I don't think anyone really thought it was going to do very well, and it was pretty bad for quite a long time. It really was pretty ropey. Mm-hmm. And at one point, Nintendo actually stopped paying Rare for the development for 3 months because it was so bad, so we don't want it.
Oh, wow.
And Rare didn't tell the team, they just kept the team going, and Nintendo gradually came around again. And also the multiplayer bit, like the team wanted to do it, but Rare and Nintendo said, it's not worth doing, it's a crap idea, don't do that. I know, yeah, so the team kept developing it and didn't tell Rare that they were still doing the multiplayer thing, and they kind of unveiled it very close to the end, like maybe in the last 6 or 7 weeks. And they were like, God, this is great. So, it's amazing, really, that you think that's probably the bit that everybody remembers the most, right? The multiplayer part, because it was like it was a real kind of big college hit in America, wasn't it? All the guys at college playing it.
Yeah. Well, even then, like, I was really young and playing it still. Like,
yeah.
Everybody was playing.
Oh, no, yeah. So, like, it was such a weird... It's one of those weird things. I think my life's a complete, just, flukes all over the place.
Yeah.
And also, when it first came out, like it wasn't like a lot of times the games these days come out and they have a massive success at the start, then really die off really quickly. Mm-hmm. Well, GoldenEye was a real slow burn. It kind of started little and it just started to build, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like to like 10 million sales or something. Yeah. So we were all pretty shocked. No one more than the dev team. We were like, Jesus, this has gone really, really amazingly well. How did that happen? It was a bit strange. That was a real kind of. Like I did about maybe because Graham Norgate came back onto GoldenEye maybe like 3/4 of the way through, and I left to go and start doing a game called Dream, which turned into Banjo Kazooie. So I didn't finish it off. So me and Graham kind of shared it. So we probably did like half the music each, and Graham did all the sound effects too. So we probably did maybe half of it each, I'd have said, music wise.
So when you say the game Dream turned into Banjo Kazooie, was it like the same premise type of game, or was it a completely different game and they just like swapped it over to Banjo Kazooie? No,
it was miles different. It was like a Zelda-based RPG, really. The Dream was.
Oh, whoa.
It was like it was the kind of big secret game at Rare. Like the two brothers who ran it, Tim Stamper and Chris Stamper, they each used to have a dev team of their own. And Tim's dev team was the one that was done Donkey Kong and it was doing Dream. And so like I was taking off GoldenEye like 3/4 of the way through to go and work on Dream with Dave Wise, because Dave Wise was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was on the Super NES at that point, and it was a bit like an RPG side-scrolling thing, but the graphics looked fantastic because Rare were great at that,
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of got switched across to the N64 because they were working on GoldenEye at that point and Blastcore, so it just thought there was no point putting it on Super NES because that was a dying console kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they switched it over, and then after a while, we had this really elaborate kind of floor system where it was all pixels. You could all triangles, so you could drag the floor to any shape. So we can make these amazing like terrain to walk across. But the N64 couldn't run it very fast. It was too complicated for it.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, another team there was doing Conker's. It was called Conker's 12 Tales at the start, and they were doing that. And they'd kind of gone that traditional kind of Mario N64 route, Super Mario, that kind of look of game. Yeah. Which is much simpler, big floor textures, so you could run really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But we just couldn't get the game to run fast enough. I remember Tim trooped us all across to see Conker, and they had a really great demo going, like a really first level. It was fantastic. And then we were like, oh, God, they're great, and we're crap, we're all depressed. Yeah. And then Tim said, right, that's it, we're scrapping it, we're starting again. We're going to do a platformer like Mario, and we're going to get rid of all this floor stuff, just do it like Conker. And we started thinking about how to change the game. So, one of the guys, or the artist guys, got the level running pretty, the first kind of demo level up running pretty quick. And Tim was looking at what, let's make animals for the main character.
Yeah.
So a rabbit was kind of the first idea, and then it changed to a bear, and then at that time in Japan it was really popular having those kind of little plastic backsacks, backpacks.
Yeah.
That sounds slightly.
It's all the same.
Yes. In fashion, and it was decided it was a great place to put things, items that you might collect in the game. And then to make him fly, wings would pop out. And then it slowly got, and then it was like, why didn't it make that into a character? And then Kazooie got born, popping out the bag. So that's how it all kind of came to happen. And then, in the same time, there was a game called RC Pro-Am Racing, which Rare had done on the Spectrum years before, and they were remaking it for the N64. So at that point, there was no point of me and Dave on Banjo Kazooie. So Dave went off to do RC Pro-Am Racing. And we had all Banjo set to come out for that Christmas. It must have been Christmas '96, maybe. I think, I'm not sure. Maybe it was I forget the year.
Yeah.
But we were miles behind schedule. We were never going to make it. So we had a big meeting with Howard Lincoln. He was like number 2 at Nintendo America at the E3 that year in the summer, and he just put the fear of God into us. We were all like completely scared to bits because he was like, he's a real quiet talker that everyone knew he's a really fearful man, and no one ever dared to cross him. I remember he sat down and said, my name's Howard Lincoln, I'm the whatever it is position at Nintendo. We have $5 billion in the bank and no debts. And that's how he started the conversation.
Oh, God.
We were like, oh, right. He said, no, just to let you gentlemen understand the commitments here. Like, just sort of laid it out. We've committed $20 million to this advertising campaign, $40 million to this. It was just all millions of dollars. We're like, oh, Christ, he's going to, if he finds out we can't make it. He said, so I just want to make sure that you guys know that if Christmas is not an option, you have to make it. And we're like, yeah, Howard, no problem, mate. We're going to be there. Going to be brilliant. You wait, and we all shot ourselves completely. Just going, oh, Christ, he's going to blow the company up. We go back to the UK, and I remember, Tim and Chris knew we weren't going to make it. So they said, look, Banjo's not going to make it, but we have this racing game, RC Pro-Am Racing, like a kart racer. And Nintendo says, look, stick the Kong family in the game, and we'll take that instead. So they put Diddy Kong into, and DK into the racer, along with some of Rare's own characters, and Banjo Kazooie in there too. Changed the name to Diddy Kong Racing, and that came out instead. So they got all our advertising budget, and we were all in tears because it sold like millions of copies, and all had made loads of money. We were all like, depressed because we missed. Banjo came out. And Banjo came out the following summer. So that was a true story. That's how it all happened. So it's just a case of, they had the racing game, put Kong in it, and the Kong character, and we'll take that instead, and that's what happened.
I think what also helped it, because I remember I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade when Nintendo 64 and like all that were coming out. Because I remember 2nd grade, I got my first Nintendo 64, so I was really excited. And the first ever game I got was Diddy Kong Racing. And I don't know if there was just weren't a lot of games to pick from, or I just really wanted that one. I don't know, but I just specifically remember being like, oh yeah, I want Diddy Kong Racing. So I don't know, was that right when the Nintendo 64 had come out and there weren't a lot of games on top of it?
Yeah, it must have been. It must have been really early. I forget the year it came out. I started in '95 when we had the dev kits for the N64 then, but nothing was out.
Yeah.
So maybe it was '96 to the back end of '96 that it came out, maybe, or maybe it was at E3, so maybe it came out Christmas '96, maybe, or maybe I don't know. It's certainly '96, '97. It must have been around there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it would be. Let's see, based on how old 2nd grade. Yeah, I'd be like 7 or 8, I think, in '96. So yeah, it'd be around Christmas because I got it for Christmas. So I was like, oh, awesome.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, so that's why Diddy Kong came out and sold 5 million copies or something like that. And we had to wait till next summer to get Banjo out because we just couldn't get it finished.
And Banjo is weird because it was one of those things where I remember finding out about Banjo Kazooie from that VHS tape.
All right,
Nintendo Power or something.
Yeah. Classic. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're a kid and you watch that, you're like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. And then you watch it when you're older and you're like, interesting. But so how did you get? So were you in full control over the Banjo Kazooie music?
Yeah, so at Rare, at those days, everybody got their own game. So every composer, or you're a sound guy, right? You got the whole game. You did all the sound effects and all the music. That's how it worked. So I was given Banjo. When Dave left to go to Diddy Kong, and it sort of switched from Dream to Banjo Kazooie, that's when I got the entire project. So that's my first game to myself entirely. Like, it's music and sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So was that like a really big task in your mind? Like, how am I going to do all this? Or was it more of just like a challenge? Like, awesome, I get to finally do this.
Well, I guess it was a bit scary. It was a new IP. I know that Tim, the boss, had real high hopes for it. And he sort of came to see me and said, well, Grant, this is all yours now, don't mess it up. And I was a bit sort of, oh my God, it's going to be a disaster. I'm going to make a complete mess of it. They're going to hate me and fire me, So yeah, so that was a bit scary. I mean, it's nice to get the whole thing to yourself, but it is a bit, all the rest of the guys on the team were pretty experienced at all, like Donkey Kong guys. And I was like pretty new. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was a bit scared.
So what was the first actual song that you made in that game?
So what I did was, I remember when it switched from Dream to Banjo Kazooie, Tim said, and Greg Males, who's the lead designer, said, look, write us a tune. Give us an idea what you think it's going to be like. So I just tried to write some kind of jolly platform tune, because like Dream was very sort of RPG, so I've written some kind of quite serious RPG Zelda-y type music for that game. Mm-hmm. So I had to switch completely. So I wrote this kind of jolly tune, which actually turned into Click Clock Woods. So I wrote the tune without really thinking about it. Was for nothing really. It was just to kind of show that I could do something that was jolly. Mm-hmm. So it was like right. So and then I just did it and then left it. So I wrote that tune, and it wasn't until I came to Click Clock Woods that I thought, that tune might fit there. So I brought it back out and put it in that level. But I hadn't really thought that tune would be for any level at all. It just seemed to fit when I got to that level to do it. So that's what I got in the game.
That's really cool. That's actually one of my favorite songs in the game too.
It's funny it's so simple that people really like it. It's really one of those really little simple tunes, but you don't think at the time, And
it's one of those things where as you play the level, I think one of my favorite things about it is like if you go underwater, it becomes like an aquatic song, and then you like change seasons and it becomes like a summer song, like a spring song. And I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah, that's my son's favorite level, actually. Funny enough, he likes that one the best. He likes that the way it changes back from the seasons. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I was just trying to, impress the bosses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the whole sort of finding that kind of wacky, sort of a little bit oddball music that suited the characters was completely by fluke again. So I just I thought there's no point me doing that kind of Nintendo poppy jazz like in Mario, because I'm not good at it, and they're great at it. It's no point doing that. Yeah. So I tried to find something that I thought would be my thing, So I didn't know if I'd succeeded or not, but I just thought I'd just try to write something a bit different,
So what was your favorite Banjo Kazooie song then?
I don't know. I guess I usually say Monster Mansions. I like that one a lot. Mm-hmm. Because I think that I was trying to work out how to get something using a really sort of dark harmony, but not scare the kids. That's the kind of prime thing you try to do. So I had that nice kind of dark chord sequence, but I couldn't find a way to make it not scary or not too scary. Mm-hmm. I was watching Beetlejuice, a Danny Elfman thing, and he had that umpa rhythm going in Beetlejuice a lot, but with kind of quite dark chords, but you wouldn't know it because it's in a kind of jolly rhythmic fashion. Yeah. So I was like, so my little light bulb went on. So if I use the dark harmony but make it sound jolly rhythmically, no one's really going to know, but they're going to feel like it's dark but not too dark. So that really worked for Mad Monster Mansion. So I kind of learned that little bit from Danny Elfman from Beetlejuice. And that's why it turned out the way it did.
Oh wow, that's really cool. I was like hearing like the inspiration of like what went into something, because like everything that's created is like inspired by something else.
Oh yeah, and also I think that people always think that we're all really knowledgeable and we're superhero, game developers who've got great ideas all the time, and most of it's just by complete chance. It's just,
yeah.
You just kind of stumble on it. Oh, that's all right, and you don't really know why it's good. And if it is good, you have to wait years often to find out if anybody really likes it. So it's not like we're all like super brainy, super experienced, like creative people. It's just like, I don't know, you just fall off a log and it just happens to work.
Yeah.
So, like I would never have dreamt that people would be talking about Banjo Kazooie tunes in 2016. It's mad. I thought usually games are like 6 months, it's all over, right?
Yeah.
So if people just still talk about it now, it's like, I don't know what I did right. It's just complete fluke. Just luck of the draw, I think.
Well, I was trying to figure out like why I enjoyed it so much too, because like as a kid, like I played a lot of video games, but I always like remembered Banjo Kazooie songs and like the game in general, and I was like, wow, I just love this game. And so that's why this past year just like while streaming, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a bunch of like mega streams and just like play all these games, because I never actually beat any of them because I was a kid and I was bad at them. Right. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna play them all. And after like playing them all again, I think Banjo Kazooie is still my like favorite one, because it's very simple and the controls are good. The like game is just a very like cheery, yet like it's almost like a storybook type of writing game. And then like the music, I think, is just, I don't think I have any songs I dislike in the game, and they're just like, I don't know, it's just, it feels like everything melds together perfectly.
Ah, you're a kind soul.
But it's like at the same time I've played like, you know, Banjo Tooie, and I think Banjo Tooie is a better game, but I still find myself liking Banjo Kazooie more because of that like nostalgic kind of simple factor.
Yeah, I think at the time, this is a classic example of like game guys not really knowing what they're doing. We thought, if we do Banjo 2, if it's twice the size, it's twice as good, right? But that isn't the case. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a Banjo 2, I think it's too big. We all thought, even I used to get lost in it, like trying to find things in Pterodactyl Land, or, you know, used to go, what, or Grunt Industries, you just get lost, you know. Mm-hmm. I think that taught us a lesson that it isn't about the size, it's about the content, you know. Mm-hmm. And Banjo 2 had tons of content. It was so massive. It was just like, oh god, you get bored of playing it after a while because there's so much to do, and it just takes too long, you know. So I think we learned that. You know, I think that I've learned something like quite recently. I guess the last few years, that if something you do is part of someone's childhood, it generally sticks forever. Like I remember, you know, like when I was a kid, you know, the theme tunes to like Thunderbirds and Scooby Doo and, you know, all those things that I remember all the words to this day. I think that it's a little finite kind of area, maybe like 5 to 10 or 11, I can't think of the age group, but, you know, round about there, where you just don't forget that stuff ever. You always remember those theme tunes that, you know, as a kid. And so I think for me, with Banjo Kazooie, it just hits some people in the right age, you know, remembers it. And I guess I know it's a lesson really well learned, really, that, you know, it really can stick, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like a perfect example of it. It stuck with me like all the way. And one of the weird things, even sound effects, because I was playing Donkey Kong 64 like the other weekend, because I had another stream thing. I'm like, all right, Donkey Kong. So that was another game I played and like I remembered nothing about. And when Lanky Kong, he plays that the trombone.
That's right.
That trombone noise of where he's like, that had been stuck in my head, and I had no idea where it was from. Right. And I just it would like randomly pop up like, and I'm like, I don't know where that's from. And then when I heard it again, I'm like, oh my god, that's it.
Oh god,
it's like an epiphany.
Yeah,
it's so weird.
Yeah, like, you know, Donkey Kong was good fun, you know. But I think for me, Donkey Kong had that thing with the DK rap, like. Everyone hated it at the time. I got a real slagging for that. Like, oh god, they all thought I was trying to do some kind of credible rap track. With monkeys and bananas and whatever else, you know, and like I was just trying to make a joke, really. And I think at the time it was like, oh god, everyone's sort of like, the game's great, the tunes are great, but why did Grant do that awful bloody rap at the start of the game? So it's quite depressing. It's funny, but like everyone sort of likes it now. It's taken like, you know, 13, 14, whatever it is, 14 years for me to wait for someone to actually like it. So it's that was a bit of it wasn't upsetting, but it was a bit like, you know, no one got that. I was just trying to be funny, you know. Yeah. Just didn't work.
Yeah, and I think that's another one of those things where like people probably hear it as a kid and they like it a lot more than like the adults who hear it and they're just like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know? And then you grow up and you're like, oh, I get it. It's like a funny type of thing.
I know. I think the DK rap sort of stuck with me all these years. It's kind of my albatross to bear. So, you know, it's there forever, you know.
Like, even some of the lyrics are just like, what do you like, walnuts and peanuts and something pineapple smells.
Yeah, we had to be so careful. You couldn't, you know, like what made like in part didn't say like this Kong's one hell of a guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we got Nintendo and us in the UK never once blinked at that word, because it's like it's a really, everyone says bloody hell's like a phrase that everyone, it's like a tame.
Yeah.
Not swear, just like a, you know, like oh dear kind of thing. Mm-hmm. American people were like, oh my god, they cursed in the game, and you know, couldn't believe that people would think that hell was a curse word, and so never once occurred to me that would be an issue. and it wasn't. I think Nintendo actually. I think maybe they changed it later. I think because they used a DK. I mean, I couldn't believe it. They used a DK wrap in like Smash Brothers a couple of times.
Yeah.
And also at the time they got a really credible Japanese rapper to redo it all.
Oh my god.
This rap guy, he had all the moves, all the nonsense, all the turntables, doing the DK rap. It's like, I don't mind what's going on here.
It's like GoldenEye. You just had to wait a while for it to get good.
I know, yeah. It was the weirdest thing. But the health thing was like a bit odd. Like I never once thought that would be an issue, but in America, that was the only place that people kind of flagged it. Ooh, it's a bit of a curse word, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. But like Donkey Kong's actually another thing. It actually suffered that same kind of Banjo Tooie thing, but worse, where like there's just so much stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like you just keep switching. It's like, all right, I saw the green banana, but I couldn't pick it up, so I got to switch to him and go get the green banana, and then come back and get the blue banana, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, it got a bit laborious, didn't it? And I think there's that book, isn't there? The Guinness Book of Video Game World Records or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I know Donkey Kong's is in there for the most collectibles.
Yeah.
Yeah, like no surprises there, right? It was like, I know there's so much to do. It was annoying after a while, wasn't it? That stuff. So I guess we all learned another lesson there that more collectibles isn't necessarily a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And then there was the Banjo Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a bad game. It was just like when someone expects something and then they get something else. And I think that's why I got so much hate.
Yeah, I think that it would have been good if it just wasn't Banjo and Kazooie. It should have been another IP, I think.
Yeah.
That was like it's funny, like when we moved to America, my son must have been, I don't know, 2008, it must have been like four, yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 6. And like when his new American friends used to come over to the house, that was the one game they all couldn't wait to play. Like they could, because they didn't know Banjo Kazooie from early. They'd never seen Banjo Kazooie before.
Oh yeah.
And they loved the building part. They couldn't wait to just build wacky machines and like stuff like that. And in some respects, it's quite Minecrafty really, because you couldn't do anything. Strap on an engine, another engine, and a set of propellers, and all that stuff. And so all these fans really loved that game a lot. And I think that Microsoft slightly dropped the ball there. I think they could have pushed it to a younger audience, and it would have done all right. But I think at that point in time, I think it was up against, I think probably maybe Halo 1, maybe Halo 2, one of the Halo games. And like the marketing team was like, if you want to keep your job and look good, what are you going to do? You're going to back Nuts and Bolts, or you're going to back Halo? You're going to back Halo, right?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of suffered because of that. But it was strange that, seeing kids play it, it's a great lesson that is for me, to see kids that have got no kind of concept of what's cool and what isn't cool. They just know what they like when they're that young, right? So they really liked it a lot. So I think that it could have been it just had the Banjo Kazooie thing attached to it, which just kind of killed it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens, I think, when you even mess with people's nostalgia. Because that's like, I know, like, the whole thing, like, I was the kid and I played both the Banjo games. It's like, all right. And then I waited, however many years, it was like 7 or 8 years later after they came out. And I remember they played that ad, and it was like a sketch drawing, right?
That's right, yeah. The trailer was great, wasn't it? I love the trailer.
Yeah, I love the trailer. And I was like, oh my god, they're doing it. It's the Banjo 3 game. And I was like so excited. And then they're just like, and it's cars, and it's racing. And I was like, because you like build up your expectations on top of it.
Yeah, I mean that was the year that I left Rare. I didn't like that. I thought it was not a great idea. But I was really busy with Viva Pinata, the second one actually. So I didn't get my hands on much with Banjo. I wrote the music for Nuts and Bolts, but I'd lived very little time with it. And then I left in July, and it came out I think end of that year, 2008. So I didn't really see the real intricacies of it until later. But I just thought I would have rather made just another platform game and a proper Banjo 3. And I guess that's the Yooka Laylee. That's why, right? Because in some respects, it is that game. So I think that I've always wanted to kind of finish that off. So I feel like we've done it now.
Yeah. Because I mean, I remember because I played Nuts and Bolts for another like stream thing, and like when it starts up, you're playing as like Banjo, and he's like fat, and it's kind of funny, or he's like running around like But I think it almost mocks the idea where they're like, nobody wants to play platformers anymore. Everybody wants these like new games, like racing games. Like, yeah, we don't want collectathons anymore. But then the ironic part is like, all right, go collect stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I must admit, in that first opening sequence of the game, there's quite a lot of humor in there. Like Grunty's quite about grabbed by the ghoulies, because that didn't do so well either, did it? And all that stuff. And I was because Greg Mayles, the lead designer, he was the same guy that wrote Banjo Kazooie and Tooie and all the Donkey Kong games as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's great, really good designer. But he's great at like humor stuff. So all that stuff was still in there, and I thought that was funny.
I thought it was funny too.
Yeah, so it's good to see that.
Yeah, and it was like I played it, and I was like, this is all right, but it was just one of those things where it definitely messes with your head, where you're like, this could have been something else, so you're like not enjoying it as much as you could. And I think that's definitely what a lot of it is. So I remember as a kid, even I played like Lego Racers, and I loved that game, and it's essentially the same game. So I'm pretty sure if I would have played it as a kid, I would have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit of a shame, but I can totally understand why people just got rebelled against it. And I wasn't keen, and I was working on it, for God's sake. So yeah, it was like, yeah, it's a shame that was.
Have you actually like played like all the games, or like have you like completed any of them?
It used to be that way. I think the last game that I completed was Grabbed by the Ghoulies. That's the last one that I physically got all the way through umpteen times to test it. Because a lot of times when you're an audio guy, it's your responsibility to kind of test out all the audio. Because like most testers will play through it, but they won't notice things that you'll notice. So so like I would always play through all the games that I'd ever worked on. But I say Grabbed by the Ghoulies was the last one that I got all the way through. Pinata was just too big. I left before Banjo Nuts and Bolts was finished, and then when I went to work at Big Huge Games and did that Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, that was a gigantic game. And I think I never ever got past the tutorial in that, ever. I never got anywhere near the end of the game. I've no idea how it ends, really. So gigantic. So I just haven't got, and as a freelance guy now, I've got no time to do it at all. So, I say Grab by the Ghoulies is the last one I completed, probably. So it's pretty sad.
So, like, I'm curious as to, like, what the process is of actually creating a song. Like, how long it takes, like, what tools you use to do that.
Okay, well, I guess, like, because I talk fast, right? I do everything fast. I'm just the way I'm built.
Yeah.
I'm not really good at doing, like, polishing things. I'm kind of fast, get it done, and then go to the next thing. I can't really do that kind of concentration very long. So I'd say that, I could probably do a Banjo Kazooie level in a couple of days, probably. What I used to use Cubase back then, which is like a software program that you can write music in, like Logic or what else are things like that, Sonar or that kind of stuff. And it's rare all the way through, but I use Pro Tools now, which is a similar thing. And you just write music in the computer. So you plug in a MIDI keyboard to the computer, so you can play MIDI into the computer records information. So the computer will record things like the velocity, how hard you hit the note, how long the note is. What note you played, that kind of thing. And so you build up music by lots of tracks of instruments. So you'll have a track of clarinet or a track of flute, a track of bassoon, then strings, high strings, low string, all that kind of thing. And because I've written a lot of orchestral stuff recently, so I'm doing all that. But it could equally be synths. You just build up tracks of synths, and then you have to mix it all together to make it sound hopefully good. And then that's it. I mean, like my process of writing hasn't changed at all in the last 21 years now. It's not. I just literally, sit down at my computer with my keyboard, load up a sample of something, a French horn or a clarinet or some synth patch, and mess around with it till I hear something that I like. And that's my writing process. I think what I did. I mean, Rare was fantastic, right? I love being there. But one of the takeaways from that I love was the fact that it was a 9-to-5 job. So you turned up at 9 in the morning and started writing music. It was a great training to kind of, a lot of songwriters and people. Sit in a darkened room, wait for the hand of the Lord to hand them a song kind of thing,
Yeah.
Like being a real staff composer, you don't do that. You get into it at 9 in the morning, you start writing. So it's a great regime to get into. So, spending 12, 13 years at Rare, writing music from 9 till 5 every day was a fantastic, experience. So it's got me in good stead. So because I'm a father, I could take the kids to school early in the morning and come home, have a shower and start writing straight away. And I think I write my best stuff between like 9 and 1 in the day. That's my best kind of time. Afternoons are dopey, and then I can maybe do a bit more at night if I have to. But yeah, so it hasn't changed at all in the last 21 years. It's exactly the same as it ever was. I mean, the gear's better, it sounds better, but my actual brain process is no different.
That's really cool. I think it is like definitely something where people just need to sit down and actually do whatever it is. So I noticed that with writing, because I like to write a lot. It's like a lot of times like, well, I'm just going to wait till I get a good idea. And it's like, no, just sit down and just write, because like a lot of people wait, like I just got to get a good idea first.
No, I think you're right. I think it's, I always say to people, just play the first note, just whatever it is, just play it. And look at the piano keyboard, like every song you've ever heard in your life is in there somewhere. Yeah. Like it's everything you've ever heard is in that keyboard right in front of you now. So it's not like it's like a magical thing. It's a functional object, isn't it? You just sit down, play a note, and get on with it. So I think, like you were writing, it's good to just make yourself, do that. I think, and to get into some kind of regime of like doing it at a certain time every day is a really good idea. So you get used to doing it, and I think your brain starts to get used to it, and you start to go, all right, it's time to write music now, or time to write words like you. So I think that it's a great habit to get into, I think.
Yeah. So like, what about after you write a song? Do you like then put it into? Well, I guess you would think about the setting and the theme of the song before you're writing it.
Yeah.
So like, say you're writing like a desert level, like a Gobi Valley type thing, would you be like, all right, I need to write this or these types of instruments, or like would you look into it, like what types of instruments do they use like in this like area or whatever?
I think most composers worth their salt have got a pretty good idea about that before they even start. Someone says to me it's a frozen ice forest, I'll be thinking about pizzicato strings and glockenspiel and celeste and spiky things, and high strings to give it that kind of snowy atmosphere. Or it's a warm sunny forest, I think about bassoons and nice warm strings and warm woodwinds and and French horns and things like that. It starts to pop into your head, doesn't it? I think most composers will have that before they even put the fingers on the keyboard. They'll have that in their head. I think that's just I think human beings are sort of predisposed we're pre-programmed to expect certain sounds just from all these years of movies. You're pre-programmed to expect a certain kind of thing when you see a certain kind of thing. Like if it's a desert, you're going to maybe expect to hear some kind of Arabian sounding thing going on, aren't you? Or some or something, some barren sort of windswept thing. Or like as a snow level, that's going to be like maybe Christmas bells and jolly Santa's in the background. I mean, because I think we are all pre-programmed a little bit that way. So I think most composers are going to get a pretty good idea before they start. So you just kind of write it, and you'll hand it off to the head guy, and he'll say I like it or I don't. You'll start again, or that'll be it, or you'll maybe make a few changes, or all that stuff can happen, I think.
I noticed because I got to play the Yooka Laylee Glacier level.
That's my favorite tune in the entire game. That is.
Oh, really?
Love writing that one. Yeah.
Because I was gonna say I really like that music there. It's like it just feels perfect, like for the actual level.
Oh yeah, honestly, I loved writing that piece. Like when they did the Kickstarter, they said, "Look, can you write a bit of an ice level tune? We haven't even started the level yet. We just write something we can put on the Kickstarter page." So I wrote that little ditty that's on there. But when it came to the actual level, I realised I was trying to write some kind of Freeze Easy Peaks jolly thing, Christmas bells, thinking that'd be like that. But when it came to the level, it just didn't look like that. And I said, it's not going to fit. And so I started again, and I wrote that, which is a bit more kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit more floaty, ethereal, perhaps. And it's got that lovely trombone bit in the middle. It's all really nice John Williams-y chords that I love to use. And John Williams is my hero, so I was trying to do a little bit of John Williams in the middle. And the bit with French horns at the end. So I love that. Yeah, that's my favourite piece in the entire game. I just think it just fits the level so well. It's got that just, nice kind of icy feel to it, but it's still quite warm, if you know what I mean. So I'm glad you like it, because that's my favourite.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like the month after Christmas. It's like you see like all the bells and all the it reminds me of like January, winter.
Right. I get that.
So I'm curious as to like when you make sound effects as well, like were you the one that had to decide like these characters are gonna talk like or like do you just like not want to do dialogue, or like was that someone else's idea, or like how do you come up with like all that?
No, it was me. Like originally we wanted to have that real speech, but the N64 was so tight in memory there was no way you could afford to get real speech in there. I mean, Conker did manage it later, but there's bigger cartridges, and they managed to get the MP3 coder working then, so they could get speech in the game. But at Banjo Kazooie, there's no way it's going to happen. So we had to work out a way to try and do something. So we came up with that idea of the kind of funny speech thing going on, and that was like, it's funny. The secret thing I'm working on right now, which is quite this game I'm doing. When I met the dev team, they sort of said, "Yeah, that banjo speak was so iconic," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like it was just a complete mess, and we all went, "Oh my, this is the best we can do, but you'll have to do. We can't," So it becomes an iconic thing. But at the time, we all hated it. Thought, "Oh Christ, people are going to hate us for this," So I just had to come up with some noises that I thought would suit a character. So Chris Sutherland, who was the lead programmer on Banjo Kazooie, he was Banjo and Kazooie. And it was just a case that we used to get him to say like A-E-I-O-U in a funny like that, or that kind of thing, or or just kind of say some like like that kind of thing. And I'd sample them saying that, and I'd cut each little syllable up into little single syllables like that, and then I'd put it into the N64, and I'd give it a random pitch value between like two values, like +1 to +2 or whatever, and then also the game would select one of the samples at random, so it was all random. And I kind of learned that having a really big pitch range didn't sound right, because the human voice hasn't got that big a pitch range when you speak with it. It's pretty narrow. So I kind of learned that. So I kind of narrowed it down a bit. And then we also learned that when the text appeared on screen, we needed a sample per syllable. So if the word had 2 syllables, you'd get, like, if it was surprise, it'd go like that. We'd try and so you get that kind of natural rhythm, not like just going like that. It would be to the syllable. So some samples are close together, some samples are further apart, depending on the word. So all that little bit of learning process made it sound a little bit better than it could have been. Yeah. So, and I also found that some of the noises would work better with a few samples. Some would work better with more. So Kazooie had a lot of samples. Banjo maybe had like 3 or 4. Just couldn't get to work with him. That was that kind of like that. Yeah, so and like we also learned that if the sample was still playing when you started the next word or syllable, you'd cut that sample off and start the next one, because a human voice can't make more than one sound at once, right? It makes one sound, that's it. Yeah. Can't overlap anything. So when we started, it all sounded awful. We couldn't work out why, and you slowly learn that those were the reasons. Not too much pitch, sample per syllable, stop the sample if it gets to the next syllable or word before the previous sample's finished. And before long, it started to sound, not completely terrible, sort of bearable. And then it just became that funny thing that everyone thought, oh, this is quite funny in the end, and we all quite like doing it. And like lots of guys did different voices. It just kind of. But it's funny that I met with those guys. Like, oh, it's iconic, and what a fantastic idea! Let's complete again. It was just like, oh my god, it sounds so bloody awful. We've got to try and do something. What we're going to do? Like, let's just mess around with it till it sounds bearable.
Another one of your fluky success stories.
Oh yeah, the thing is, I think a lot of creative stuff is like that. You just kind of fall upon it. I think when it's scientists, they really work it out. But it's creative people. We're all a bit stupid. We're always kind of go, oh, I don't know. It's a bit like that. I think So yeah, very haphazard.
I'm curious as to if you were to have you played Banjo and Kazooie, or your son played it recently?
Yeah, I guess he sort of stumbled across it. I think it was when it first got onto XBLA. Whenever that was, 2000, whatever that was. Yeah. I didn't tell him that I did the music. I thought if he hates it, I'll be really upset. Quiet. He loved it. Yeah, he really liked it. So it was really a bit tearful when I was kind of watched him playing it for the first time. It was a bit because I hadn't seen it for a very long time. I hadn't played it for ages. I've got an N64, but it's in the loft somewhere. I can't find it. So I hadn't actually physically played the game for a lot, or even seen it for a lot of years. So it was really nice to see him play it and really enjoy it. And my daughter also thought it was great. She's a bit younger, so that was really lucky that they liked it. But yeah, that was a really nice kind of little thing to see them play it and like it.
So I'm curious as to when you hear your music from that game, or the sound effects or anything, if you get flashbacks to working on it or working on something. Because I know whenever I would make videos of WoW and stuff, a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, I love this character you made, and or this thing, and I flash back to that, and I'm not oh yeah, I remember that. I'm more oh yeah, I remember editing that, and it's you get this weird the creation process. Flashback rather than just oh yeah, I remember watching that.
No, definitely. I think you remember where you were at the time, don't you? Really, for that stuff, you remember how you did it and why you did it and how long it took you to do it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely that all sticks in your mind. Lots of little bits like the the flower pot story where the flower pots, everyone thought they said F you and it didn't really, and I had all that. Yeah, that was a bit of a mess with Nintendo going, do you really think I'm going to say that word on a kid-friendly game? It's just ridiculous, Yeah. But then they missed so many other innuendos that they didn't understand, so that was fantastic. So it's to be part of something like that and to be so remembered fondly is just a really nice, humbling experience. I mean, it genuinely is. To get to that. I always think that any creative person, whether you're a writer or a photographer or an artist or a musician or whatever, for somebody else in the world to like something that's come out of your head is like, even one person is spectacular. Like the thing that you thought of and created, somebody else really likes it. I think that's really, really special. So I never get, blasé or tired of that. I think it's a real special thing. And for people to still like Banjo Kazooie like umpteen years later, I can't believe it. It's amazing. It's the nicest thing ever. It really is.
Or even to see like a lot of other people just like redoing their own like take on your songs on top of all that.
Yeah, that is really fantastic. I mean, I know how long it takes to write songs and to go through that process to mix it all and get it sounding good. I mean, some of those versions are way better than my versions, way better than what I could do. Like, it's just that is really also another humbling experience. And like, people taking that time to do it, I find it. I really, really like it. I think some guys maybe don't like it, but I love it. I think it's, there's a guy in Canada who. He must teach like elementary school. He's done like 3 or 4 videos of my stuff, and like those are the ones that make me cry every time. Like little kids are sat there playing the Banjo Kazooie pause tune. They've got the cellos, and it's a bit rickety and all that. So it's little kids like that. It's so pure, And he's done the Banjo Kazooie pause tune. He's done the Humba Wumba tune from Banjo Tooie. As a kid at the start, his part is just to go brrrr at the start of it. And like he takes it, and you can see the kids are there really taking it really seriously, and like he's got a really plain face, like waiting for his little entry to go, brrr, like that. It's just so magical. And they did the Yooka Laylee main theme as well. And then and during it, they had a kid sat on another kid's shoulders, walking around the room, pulling little symbols, little note symbols, like on ukulele from the ceiling. Yeah. I mean, it was just I'm just there, tears running down my cheeks. I can't believe. That stuff is just so magical. It's just awesome. It really is.
That's so cool. Well, aside from that, I wanted to ask you about WoW.
All right.
Because I figure I always ask people about WoW, but that kind of took the forefront this time.
Yeah.
So, you said you played World of Warcraft back in the day, or like you played in vanilla WoW, right, up to Cataclysm?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I played it a lot. I love playing WoW. I started off playing Star Wars Galaxies. That was my first kind of.
Oh yeah, I played Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah, I used to like that, and then I just switched to WoW because like one of the other guys at Rare, Chris Seaver, who did Conquer, he was kind of a big online player. So he said, "Look, try WoW, you'll love it." And so I started playing that. I can't think I did start playing. I can't think what year it was. Like, when did the first WoW come out?
January, or it was November of 2004. So it was around like the start of 2005.
Yeah, I must have been pretty close to the start.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I played it pretty early, so I really loved it, and I played that right to Cataclysm, and I was in a guild. It was called the Guardians of Light. They were based in the UK, I think, but most of the European guys were in them. I had a little mage called Lazarou. That's what I called him. I think I got to level 80 maybe eventually. I did all
race were you?
Yeah, and I did all the kind of dashing home from work at night to try and get back in time to be there for the raid, and signing up on the little boards you had done, and installing all the little add-ons you just installed to be part of the team.
Yeah.
It was like about to divorce me. She never saw me for years, I really enjoyed it. But the funny thing is that when I moved to America in 2008, I thought, great. And I contacted Blizzard to say, by the way, I'm moving to America, just want to make sure about the international character transfer. And they were like, we don't do that. I was like, what? So we don't, you can't do international character. And it nearly broke my heart. I was like, that's it, I'm not going. I couldn't possibly leave my mage behind. Like, with no, to start again, it was absolute travesty. And and they said it was, their excuse was, it says server incompatibility, which I totally didn't believe. So I just don't believe that at all. I couldn't believe it. I had to, all that work I put into that character, I had to leave him behind and just move to America and start again. It was dreadful. It was like a death in the family. It was terrible because I love playing WoW so much. So
what race did you play?
I was, God, it's such a long time ago. I forget. I was just a human, I think. I was
human.
Yeah, I was a human being on the good side, the Alliance. Is it Alliance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Alliance.
Yeah. So I wasn't that great at the PvP. I used to do the battlefields just to get the better gear, but I used to really enjoy doing the raids on a night time with a guild. That was good. When you do the really big stuff, the 25-man stuff. I used to really enjoy that. It was great fun.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a mic, so I used to hear all the foreign guys because they're all mostly like there seems to be a lot of Netherlands guys there, so they'd like talking and shouting at each other about. And I just type in my little comment.
Yeah.
But I know I really liked WoW. I thought it was a fun. I mean, I'm sure it's still a great game, but like I really enjoyed it back then. It was brilliant.
Mm. Do you ever like for WoW, for example, like listen to a game's music and like get ideas of your own, or like really enjoy music on like another level above like a normal person who would hear it and be like, wow, this is composed really well or something?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse. Like you spend your time listening to the chords and the harmony and all that, and you miss the point of it sometimes. Like, I think, like, I like when my wife just goes, I like that tune because I like it. I don't know why, and I quite like that sometimes. It's good to be that way. I think when you're a composer, I think you do tend to not appreciate music for the right reasons. You know, and like you might find yourself like I love John Williams, right? It can be really complicated. I can tell my wife's going, oh, I don't like this, but I'm loving it. So and when it comes to writing music by myself, I might try to write something that's too complex. People don't like it, you know. So I think John Williams is great because he's got that moment of that great big theme where you never forget it, and after that, it's got some quite complex stuff that you might forget, and then back with the main theme again. So it's a real good kind of way to keep it all going. So I think that in WoW, like Stormwind and all the tunes that Justin Hayes. I think it's Justin Hayes. I met him as a good guy. Just fantastic melodies, like just really great tunes that you'd never forget. So yeah, I think that I think you do tend to be a bit maybe over analytical when it comes to music, because you'll hear the chords thing, you've heard it a million times, but the melody is different. But to compose it like it's the same old thing again. So I think it is a bit of a curse sometimes. I think that WoW was I guess, like you said, that was a real moment in time for me. I was getting to the end of my time at Rare. I was getting sick of being at Rare. I knew I was going to leave, and I remember all that stuff, like being discontented. I always took it out on the computer, like sitting there at night for hours playing WoW, trying to take myself away from the fact that I probably wanted to leave Rare. I didn't really believe that I wanted to leave Rare, but I did. I think I spent a lot of time playing WoW, hiding away like a bit of a hermit somewhere in my house.
I think that's what a lot of people play WoW for, is just kind of like an escape type thing. It's like I can go to a different world, essentially. Just like
I totally agree with that. Like, was that funny like made up commercial about the guy that kept pestering his wife to have sex? Did you see that one?
No.
It was really funny. It was like and she's like getting sick of him pestering all the time. So she saw an advert on TV. It was like, buy WoW. So she bought in WoW, and so the guy gets addicted to WoW. Like, it got to the point she's like, darling, do you want to come and, he's got the pair of, fluffy handcuffs, and he's like, leave me alone, I've got to collect 10 things, completely. It was like, wow, the best birth control in the world. Like that. It's on YouTube somewhere. It's like I guess it's a spoof commercial, but it was just fantastically well done. And it was just like this, the guy I was like, leave me alone, I've got to kill 10 things or whatever it is. And she's like,
10 bare asses.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I thought it was a really well observed commercial. It was great. Yeah.
I think WoW does the whole like music paired with the environments really well, because I remember even from just leveling up through the zones, I remember a lot of the music from being in those zones.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a really good bunch of composers over there in good old Orange County, like Russell Browser. I know him as the audio director. He's a great composer, and I know Justin Hayes and Glenn Stafford and Neil Creed does a lot of. He's a contractor. He does tons of their stuff. Got a lot of great guys writing the music for that. So you'd expect it to be great. You really would.
Well, I think that's about all I got for you.
Did you catch anything?
No, I did not. I caught absolutely nothing. But I got a lot of bites.
It's like real life, isn't it? It's like two blokes sat on the side with beers, catching nothing just to escape the wives. That's
yeah.
That's life, isn't it?
We just needed beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Should have thought of that. Should have got drunk at the same time.
Well, thank you for joining me. Oh, it was pretty fun.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, no problem. So, where can people find you if they want to find you?
I guess Twitter's my best thing at Grant Kirkhope. That's my Twitter's like, I really like Twitter because I think you can't write very much, so it's quite good to just kind of
yeah.
Thoughts. And I usually I had a real spate of getting a bit drunk on Friday night and just sitting talking to all the Twitter people, and I thought they insult me and I insult them. It's quite funny, so I do quite a bit of that. And I don't like that whole followers sort of ego thing. I don't like that. I think it's just like-minded people, that just get together. So I think it's I like Twitter. I think it's good fun. So that's the best place to find me, really.
Yeah, I've started using Twitter as like my business card almost. I'm like, yeah, I'll just follow you on Twitter, all the people.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think back now at Rare, like Facebook came first, and that seemed to be the thing. And I had like a Facebook, and I had a Twitter account that I never really even looked at. And I think I had like, 1,000 followers or something like that. And then it kind of just sort of jumped pretty fast. And it seemed to be that it just all of a sudden changed. Like the younger people were on Twitter, and the older folk were on Facebook. And that's the way it seemed.
Yeah.
So I guess for the job that I do, a lot of younger people play games. So I guess I found myself being more Twitter involved than Facebook involved. And Facebook became more sort of family-fied, my kind of family stuff. And then Twitter was more like my messing around, being stupid thing,
Yeah.
Yeah. So Twitter's great. I love it. Yeah.
All right. I'll put your Twitter in the description thing too.
Very kind.
For all the lazy people.
Yeah. Excellent.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. I don't know if you're watching, 'cause it's just me fishing on a screen. But yeah, I never know how to end these, so I'll just. Can you do like? Can you do one of those? Can you do one of those like Banjo Kazooie voice things?
So I guess I was Mumbo Jumbo, right? That's my voice.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Eekum bokum, eekum bokum, eekum bokum." That's me. Oh, Uminaka. That's another one. Uminaka. That's me.